Ohana, a term highly valued and used by the Hawaiians to describe family. Most of us know Hawaii as a tropical vacation paradise, but there is much that we do not know about the Hawaiians and their culture, one of which they are very proud of and have worked very hard at preserving. Let us start off by getting to know a little bit more about the Hawaiians and where their culture was first influenced from. The Polynesians were the first settlers who washed upon the shores of Hawaii thousands of years ago. About 100 years after their arrival, the Tahitians shortly arrived. They pushed the Polynesians from the beaches into the mountains and eventually ended up inhabiting a majority of the islands of the Hawaiian chain. Today, most Hawaiians' lineage can be traced back to these Tahitian influences. Now, Hawaii is known as a melting pot of culture, with many influences from the Western culture, including others of that of our traditional U.S. culture, as well as Eastern influences, such as from countries like China or Japan. According to Waimea.com, Hawaii is one of the most enduring and persevering countries in the world, being able to hold on to much of their heritage and traditions over many, many centuries. One of the main aspects of the ancient culture, which is still present today, is the Hawaiian strong family value. The most influential people in the family were the grandparents. They held the highest honor and the most respect. Children were just about second in terms of value. They were to believe to be given for enjoyment from the gods and considered one of the greatest gifts that can be given. Most children were encouraged to just be kids with no responsibilities, being able to partake in most of the everyday activities that all the adults wished that they could still do. One of the ways that children were represented were as bowls of light, put here to shine the spirit of greatness upon others. In order to show this belief of being a bowl of light, every time a child was born, each grandparent would carve a bowl for these children to represent the light that was within them. Each time the child was bad or did something that they viewed to be dishonorable to their elders, they would place a rock into this bowl. With this, they would take the bowl each time they met with their grandparents. Then they would discuss any rocks that were placed in there, talking about life lessons and ways for each child to grow individually. Life revolved around the Hawaiians' extended family. This would be neighbors, aunts and uncles, second aunts and uncles, and so on. They would share pretty much everything between their homes, their food, their land, their status, and even their children. If your aunt and uncle had a farm right down the road and they needed the extra help, each family would not hesitate to send their own children to go help with their family. One of the main views of the Hawaiians is the spirit of aloha. It is said that each time a Hawaiian greets you with aloha, they are not only saying hello or bidding goodbye, they are also imparting their love, respect, and good wishes upon to you. Family tends to be a very broad term in the Hawaiian culture. It exceeds far beyond their immediate family into the rest of the community. One of the ways in which this is done is by a practice called hanai. It is very similar to what we know as adoption. Typically, there is no written record or any status stigma that goes along with it. Every time a child is brought into a hanai family, they are looked upon just as a blood relative and raised as their own. This was mainly used to ensure the Hawaiian culture was passed on to younger generations. Therefore, the younger families who were able to have more children could then offer their grandparents their child as one of the greatest gifts and greatest respects to be given to a Hanai family, where that family could then pass on their family traditions and their history onto the younger generation, keeping the family lines going and traditions flowing. In the event that the grandparents chose not to give the child to a Hanai family within their immediate family, they could extend it out into the community to others who could not have children and wanted to extend their legacies. Hawaiians will always cherish their family, even after they have passed. One of the ways that this is done is by a practice and belief of their ancestors called Aumakua. Aumakua are descendants and ancestors who could be called upon for protection, comfort, and spiritual guidance in the times of troubles of Hawaiians. These deities would be prayed to each and every time there was a problem, concern, or just a general wish. The Aumakua were believed to manifest into different animals and plants. Each family had their own animal that their Aumakua would present itself with. Many of the popular manifestations were into sharks, sea turtles, hawks, and owls. Each member of the family was said to be able to recognize their Aumakua no matter what form that they would manifest themselves in. The Aumakua would then appear in dreams to provide guidance and support in difficult times or answer any of the questions that the Hawaiians would ask upon them. Some Hawaiian families who would believe that their Aumakua was a certain animal, such as a pig or a shark, maybe a fish, they would actually refrain from eating these animals or plants in that case in order to remain or hold respect for the ancestors and make sure not to step on any toes or bring upon any disrespect. The most popular Aumakua was Pele, the goddess of fire. It was believed that if you take care of the islands and respect the islands, that Pele in turn will take care of you and respect you. It was believed to be bad luck to remove any piece of lava that was from the island and take it to any other lands. Pele would be offended and would raise you with bad luck until the rock has returned to the homelands. This was to keep honor to the ancestors and make sure that the spirit of Hawaii remained intact. Pele is still said to appear to people today, typically standing in the road at the dark of night as an old lady with a little white dog or a young temptress with flowing black hair. She is said to show up in times of trouble or in times of good fortune, warning those who see her or wishing them her blessings. Everything that we have discussed thus far is only scratching the surface of understanding the Hawaiians and their culture. Over the past few centuries, the Hawaiian culture has been exposed to many different influences from the east to the west, but there have proved to be two aspects that will always hold their utmost respect. This is family and tradition. They are one of the most welcoming and loving cultures, and there are many things in which the rest of us and our U.S. culture could learn from their practices. Let us all try and practice the spirit of aloha and spread it among our own ohanas. Aloha.